I never thought I'd be the guy who gets cheated on. I mean, I always prided myself on being the good husband. My wife, Melissa, was the center of my universe. We met in college, spent late nights talking about everything and nothing, and built a life together. Sure, we had our ups and downs, but I genuinely believed we were solid. Then came the signs, small things at first. The late nights at work, the unexplained phone calls, the scent of a different perfume on her clothes. I tried to brush it off, but deep down I felt something was off. Last month I started noticing a change in her behavior. She became more distant, often glued to her phone. When I asked about it, she'd roll her eyes, saying I was being paranoid. "You're just dreaming," she'd say with that dismissive tone that made me feel like I was overreacting. But one night after she came home late, I noticed something that shattered my world. I swear I saw him kiss her cheek. The guy was someone I had seen around, a friend of hers named Jake. The way she blushed when she talked about him made my stomach turn. I tried to convince myself I was imagining things, but then I noticed something else, a bright red lipstick smear on the collar of her blouse. It wasn't hers. I felt my heart drop. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the moment in my head. Did she really kiss him back, or was it just a friendly gesture? I thought about everything, every moment we'd shared, every promise we made. My mind raced with anger and disbelief. I decided to confront her the next day when she got home from work. I wanted answers, and I was ready for a fight. When she walked through the door, I could see she was in a good mood, probably from a text conversation with Jake. I stood there, my heart pounding. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but strained. She looked at me, confused. "What's wrong?" I didn't mince words. I told her I knew about the late nights, the phone calls, and the lipstick. Each revelation cut through the air like a knife. Her reaction was immediate: denial. "You're being ridiculous, Mark. I told you I was working late with the team." The more I pressed, the more defensive she became. I watched her face as she scrambled for excuses. "You're just imagining things, we're fine." But I could see the cracks in her facade. I pushed further, and it was like a dam broke. Tears streamed down her face, but they weren't the tears of remorse I was hoping for. Instead, she lashed out, "If you weren't so controlling, maybe I wouldn't feel the need to hide things from you." That moment hurt more than anything, the realization that she was blaming me for her betrayal. I felt anger bubbling inside me, mixing with heartbreak. I never thought I'd be standing here, confronting the woman I loved over infidelity. What followed was a whirlwind of emotions. I thought about all the times I'd supported her, all the sacrifices I'd made for our relationship. I felt betrayed and confused. How could someone I loved so deeply turn against me? I had trusted her, and now I was left with nothing but pain. As the confrontation continued, I could feel my anger morphing into sadness. I had loved this woman, and now it felt like she was a stranger. I had to make a decision about how to move forward, but I was lost in a fog of betrayal and hurt. Looking back, I realized that was just the beginning of a long journey for me. I had a choice to make, and the path ahead seemed daunting. I needed time to think, to process what had happened, and to figure out where I went from here. The confrontation with Melissa left me reeling. I needed space to think, so I decided to take a few days off work. I told my boss I was dealing with some personal matters, which was a half-truth. I was dealing with the fallout of a personal bombshell that had rocked my world. I drove aimlessly, trying to clear my head, but every place I went reminded me of her. The coffee shop where we had our first date, the park where we carved our initials into a tree. Everything felt tainted. The nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with images of her and Jake. The thought of them together cut deep. I remembered how he'd always been around, the casual friend who joked with us on game nights. The realization that he had crossed that line made my blood boil. I couldn't help but replay every moment I'd seen them together, looking for clues I had missed. By the third day, I had gathered my thoughts enough to formulate a plan. I could confront Jake, but that would only lead to more drama. I didn't want to fight, I wanted to outsmart them. I needed evidence. I couldn't just rely on a hunch or a kiss on the cheek. I wanted to expose her betrayal, and for that I needed to be clever. I decided to take a page from a spy movie. I would gather enough proof to confront her again, this time with undeniable evidence. I started by reaching out to some of our mutual friends to subtly gauge their thoughts about Jake and Melissa. To my surprise, a couple of them mentioned seeing them together, sometimes at bars, sometimes just sitting closely at gatherings. It felt like a punch to the gut, but I took mental notes. The more I collected, the clearer the picture became. One night, I followed Melissa after she claimed she was going out with the girls. I parked a block away from our apartment and waited. It was nerve-wracking. I felt like a complete creep, but I had to know. After about an hour, she walked out and my heart sank when I spotted Jake waiting for her in his car. They laughed and talked, and that's when I saw it, a short peck on the cheek. She had turned her head just enough that he could kiss her without it being too obvious. My stomach churned as I watched them drive away together. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. It was like a scene out of a movie, but this was my reality. I felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with rage. I took a few deep breaths, calming myself as I realized I had what I needed. The next day, I decided to set a trap. I sent Melissa a message, pretending to be a friend who needed to talk about something serious. I feigned concern about her relationship with me, saying I was worried about how she seemed distant lately and that I thought we should check in on each other. Playing the supportive husband was the last thing I wanted to do, but I needed to see how she would respond. Sure enough, she agreed to meet up. Over casual lunch, I played it cool, asking her about her latest projects at work and dropping hints about how I had noticed she had been more tired lately. She responded with her usual dismissive attitude, brushing off my concerns and assuring me everything was fine. As we sat and talked, I kept my eyes peeled. I was waiting for a slip-up, something that could give me more ammunition for my growing arsenal of evidence. And then it happened. She mentioned seeing Jake recently, and I couldn't resist pushing for more details. "Oh, how is he doing?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. She hesitated, but then she launched into a story about how he was going through a rough patch and needed support. As she spoke, I could see the subtle spark in her eyes. The way she smiled when she mentioned his name twisted the knife deeper into my heart. I wanted to call her out right then and there, but I held back. I needed to keep my composure, to gather more proof before making my next move. After our lunch, I felt more determined than ever. I had seen enough to know that Melissa was lying through her teeth, and I had to find a way to expose her. I planned to dig deeper, to uncover every last detail of her affair with Jake. I felt like a man on a mission, and I needed to see this through. The emotional toll was heavy, but I knew I was doing this for my own peace of mind. I couldn't let her get away with this betrayal. As I drove home, I reflected on how far I had fallen from the blissful husband I once was. I was consumed by the need for revenge, a feeling that left me both exhilarated and sick to my stomach. I had a long road ahead of me, and I was ready to take it. The next few days felt like an emotional roller coaster. I was juggling my day-to-day responsibilities while plotting my next move. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, but I also felt empowered by the knowledge that I was onto her. I spent late nights researching how to catch cheaters, reading articles and forums online, and looking into things like phone tracking apps, though I was hesitant to go that far. I wanted to confront my wife, not spy on her like some secret agent. One evening, I decided to go through some of her social media accounts. Melissa had always been active on Instagram, sharing our lives and her own adventures. I scrolled through her posts, looking for any clues about her relationship with Jake. After a while, I stumbled upon a series of pictures from a recent get-together. It was a group shot with friends, and there in the back, almost hidden, was Jake, his arm casually draped around her shoulder. The caption read, "So grateful for good friends." It felt like a slap in the face. I zoomed in on the photo, and her smile, her genuine smile, sent a wave of anger through me. It was like she was flaunting this relationship right in front of me, and I couldn't just sit back anymore. I couldn't let her get away with this. Determined to gather more evidence, I decided to turn to her closest friend, Sarah. I thought if anyone knew the truth about Melissa and Jake, it would be her. But I knew I had to tread carefully. I didn't want to raise suspicion. I reached out to Sarah under the pretense of wanting to check in on her, asking if she'd like to grab coffee. Luckily, she agreed. When we met, I played it cool, chatting about life and work. As we eased into the conversation, I steered it toward Melissa. You know, I've been feeling like she's a bit distant lately. I just want to make sure she's okay. Have you noticed anything? Sarah hesitated, and I could see the gears turning in her head. After a moment, she sighed. Honestly, Mark, I have noticed she's been spending a lot of time with Jake. She says they're just friends, but I think she confides in him more than she does with you. That was it. My heart sank further. I pushed her for more details, trying to sound casual while my mind raced. What do you mean? I asked, pretending to be concerned. Sarah went on to mention how Jake had been there for Melissa during some tough times, and there was an intimacy in her tone that made me sick. Just be careful, okay? Sarah said, her expression shifting to one of concern. You know how things can get complicated. That was the last thing I needed to hear. Complicated. I wanted to shout that this wasn't complicated, it was betrayal. I left that coffee meeting feeling more empowered and enraged than ever. I had more proof that Melissa was crossing lines, and I was determined to confront her again. That evening, I returned home, pacing the living room while I waited for her to come back from her latest outing. I replayed our past conversations in my head, trying to anticipate how she might attempt to spin this new confrontation. As the clock ticked on, I could feel my heart pounding with anticipation. When she finally walked through the door, I was ready. The moment she stepped inside, I turned to her. We need to talk again, I said, more firmly this time. The look on her face suggested she had a pretty good idea of what was coming, but she tried to play it off. What now, Mark? Can't we just relax for once? No, we can't, I shot back. I had coffee with Sarah today and she told me some things. Her expression changed instantly. She was on the defensive. What did she say? You shouldn't listen to her. She's always been dramatic. I pressed on, not letting her derail me. She mentioned you've been spending a lot of time with Jake. Is that true? I told you he's just a friend, she exclaimed, her voice rising. But is he just asterisk a friend? Because it sure seems like you're hiding something from me. I countered, my anger bubbling to the surface. Her reaction was telling. Melissa tried to maintain her composure, but I could see her slipping. You're being ridiculous, Mark. I don't have to explain my friendships to you. That was the moment I knew I had her. My heart raced as I pressed harder. You know what? I saw the photo of you two together. The way you smiled at him, it's not just friends. There's something more. Her face drained of color, but she quickly masked it with anger. You're such a jealous lunatic. I can't believe you'd stoop so low as to check my social media. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool while my heart raced. I did. Just check your social media, Melissa. I've been gathering evidence about you and Jake. It's not just my imagination anymore. She looked cornered, and for a split second I thought I saw vulnerability in her eyes, but then her anger returned, stronger than before. You're ruining everything. You don't understand what I've been through. Then tell me, I yelled back. Tell me what's going on between you two. She paused, taking a step back. I could see the conflict in her eyes. She wanted to deny it, but was forced to confront the truth. You're just blowing this all out of proportion. I can't deal with you constantly accusing me. I felt like I was on the brink of a breakthrough. She was rattled, and I pressed on. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep lying to my face, or are you going to finally come clean? But instead of owning up to her actions, she shifted the narrative. You always do this, Mark. You make everything about you. I can't breathe around you. That moment made my heart sink. I knew we were entering dangerous territory, and I had to decide whether to fight for our relationship or protect myself from further pain. The emotional toll was immense, and I felt like I was standing at a precipice. I had to figure out my next move carefully. I couldn't let her manipulate the situation any longer. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was my life, and I had to take control. After that explosive confrontation, I felt emotionally drained, yet I wasn't ready to back down. I had put myself in the line of fire, and part of me wanted to take a step back, to breathe and reevaluate everything. But the other part, the part that was angry and hurt, was ready to fight back harder than ever. The following day, I didn't go to work. I didn't want to face anyone. I needed to be alone with my thoughts. I spent hours pacing the apartment, going over what had transpired in my mind. I thought about my marriage, about the love I had for Melissa, and how it had twisted into something that felt like a betrayal. The emotional fallout was overwhelming. I decided I needed a plan, a way to confront Melissa that would leave no room for her to twist the narrative. This time I would prepare for the truth. I dug through our shared memories, searching for signs of happiness, photos of us on vacations, silly selfies, and the love notes I'd tucked away. It all felt hollow now. I wondered if we had ever truly been happy or if it had all been a facade. By the time Melissa came home that evening, I had gathered my thoughts. I wanted to approach her from a place of strength, to show her that I wasn't just some passive victim in this situation. I had spent the day writing down everything I wanted to say, everything I felt. I even made a list of the moments that had haunted me, the late nights, the whispers on the phone, and of course, Jake. When she walked in, I could tell she was on edge, expecting the tension to remain thick in the air. "Mark," she said tentatively, "can we talk?" "Of course," I replied, my voice steady. "But this time, it's my turn to talk." I led her to the living room, where I had laid everything out on the coffee table: pictures, notes, and my written thoughts. I could see her eyes widen as she took in the evidence of the emotional turmoil I had been going through. "Did you think I wouldn't notice?" I asked, my voice firm. "Did you think I would just sit back and let you lie to me?" Melissa took a step back, her defenses already rising. "You don't understand. I've been feeling so lost lately." "Lost?" I echoed, incredulous. "You've been lost while you've been running around with Jake. How does that make sense?" Her eyes darted around the room and I could see her struggling for words. "He's just been supportive," she said, her voice faltering. "Supportive? Is that what you're calling it?" I pushed back. "You've been crossing lines and I'm done pretending. I deserve the truth, Melissa." At that moment I saw a flicker of realization wash over her face. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to confront her so directly. I pressed on, my heart racing. "You can't keep lying to me. I know about the late nights, the texts, and the laughter you reserve for him. You've made your choice." The tears began to flow, and for the first time I saw genuine sorrow. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she stammered. I was just trying to feel alive again." "Alive?" I repeated, feeling the pain twist tighter in my chest. "You felt alive by betraying the person who loves you most." She looked down, the weight of her actions crashing down on her. "I wanted us to be happy, but it felt like we were drifting apart. Jake listened to me and I got caught up in it." I let her words hang heavy in the air. I had hoped for an acknowledgement of the pain she had caused, but her excuses felt hollow. "You think you can just blame it on me being controlling? That's not how this works, Melissa." I was furious, and yet part of me wanted to reach out, to hold her and tell her everything would be okay. But I had to remind myself of the reality of the situation. I was standing on the edge of heartbreak, and I needed to make my next steps count. "Do you even realize how much you've hurt me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I've trusted you with everything, and now I feel like I don't even know who you are." The tears streamed down her face, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the woman I had fallen in love with. "I'm so sorry, Mark. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I said, my heart breaking. "You need to understand that. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. Do you want to try and fix this relationship, or do you want to be with him?" Her silence was deafening. I could see the conflict in her eyes. Finally, she said, I don't know what I want." That was it. I had gone into this conversation hoping for clarity, but instead I was met with uncertainty. How could I possibly move forward with someone who couldn't even commit to our marriage? The emotional toll felt unbearable, and I knew I had to make a choice for myself. "Then maybe you need to figure that out," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I can't keep living like this, feeling like I'm competing for your affection." The room fell silent. Melissa's sobs filled the space between us. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness washing over me. This was not how I had envisioned my life, and I could feel the weight of decision pressing down on me. I had to decide if I was willing to fight for a relationship that felt more like a battlefield than a partnership. I took a deep breath, pushing back the torrent of emotions threatening to spill over. "I need some time to think," I said finally. "This isn't something I can just brush aside." As I turned to leave the room, I felt the enormity of what lay ahead. I had opened up the wounds between us, but now I had to decide if I was ready to heal or if it was time to walk away. The emotional impact of this moment would linger long after our conversation ended, and I had to prepare myself for the future, whatever it would hold. In the days that followed, things settled into an uncomfortable silence between Melissa and me. I had given her space to think, and honestly, I needed some time to process everything too. But the silence felt like a heavy blanket, suffocating us both. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of paper became amplified in the stillness. I moved through our apartment like a ghost, avoiding her gaze at all costs. I would catch her watching me sometimes, her expression a mix of longing and regret, but I couldn't bring myself to meet her eyes. Part of me felt anger, but another part was still holding out hope, hope for the woman I had married, the one who had promised to love me through thick and thin. But would she still want that? I spent hours contemplating my options. I thought about the relationship we had built and how quickly it had crumbled. My anger flared up whenever I thought of Jake. I wanted to confront him, to make him feel the pain I felt, but I knew that wouldn't solve anything. It would only escalate the situation further, and I didn't want to add more chaos to an already tumultuous time. One evening, as I sat on the couch, scrolling through my phone, I stumbled across an article about rebuilding trust after infidelity. I felt a tug in my heart. Maybe we salvage this. But the thought of having to go through that process, of reopening wounds and confronting what had happened, filled me with dread. Finally, I decided I needed to talk to someone who could offer perspective. I called my best friend, Mike. We'd been through thick and thin together, and he had always been a steady voice of reason. When I explained everything over the phone, I could hear the concern in his voice. "Man, I'm so sorry you're going through this," he said. "You don't deserve to be treated that way." "I know," I replied, my voice cracking. "But part of me wants to fight for her. I just don't know if it's worth it." "You have to do what's best for you, Mark, but understand that trust is hard to rebuild. If she's not willing to put in the work, then it might be time to walk away." His words resonated with me. In that moment, I realized that I had a choice to make, not just for Melissa, but for myself. I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I needed to know if she was committed to fixing things, or if I was just standing in the way of her wanting to be with Jake. That night, I gathered my thoughts and decided to address the issue head-on. I found Melissa sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. She looked up when I entered, her expression a mix of hope and anxiety. "I think we need to talk," I said, my heart pounding. "I've been waiting for you to say that," she replied, her voice soft. I took a seat across from her, my hands nervously clasped together. "I've been thinking a lot about where we stand. I don't want to keep dragging this out, and I'm sure you don't either." She nodded, her eyes glistening. "I don't want this to be the end of us, Mark. I know I messed up." "Then prove it," I said, my voice firm. "I need to know you're willing to work towards rebuilding what we had. No more lies, no more secrets. I want complete honesty moving forward." "I promise," she said, her voice shaky. "I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I love you and I don't want to lose you." Hearing those words should have brought me comfort, but there was still a nagging doubt in the back of my mind. "But what about Jake? Are you ready to cut ties with him completely? You need to understand that I can't be in a relationship where I'm competing for your affection." She looked down, clearly troubled. "I've told him it's over. I didn't handle things well, but I realize now how much you mean to me. I'll do anything to prove it." "Actions speak louder than words, Melissa," I replied. "If we're going to make this work, I need to see that you're committed to this relationship. I want us to be a team again, but it's going to take time." "I understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I'll show you, just give me the chance." It felt like we were standing on a precipice, teetering between hope and despair. The weight of her confession hung heavy in the air, yet I could see a flicker of resolve in her eyes. We both knew this wouldn't be easy, but if we were going to fight for our marriage, it had to start now. In the days that followed, we began to communicate more openly. We started going on walks together, discussing our feelings and addressing the issues that had led us to this point. It wasn't easy. Each conversation was a reminder of the pain we had caused each other. But as we navigated this difficult terrain, I started to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with. One evening, during one of our walks, she turned to me and said, "I want to go to couples therapy. I think we need that guidance to help us work through this." I considered her proposal. Therapy could provide the tools we needed to rebuild trust and navigate our way back to each other. "I think that's a good idea," I replied, feeling a flicker of hope. As we walked back home, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. While I knew the road ahead would be challenging, I also knew it was a road worth traveling if it meant salvaging the bond we once shared. It was a small step, but a step in the right direction. We both understood it would take time, patience, and a commitment to healing. But as I glanced at her, I realized that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Whether it was through therapy or just the determination to make things right, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I had learned a lot in this journey about love, trust, and the fragility of relationships. What mattered most now was our willingness to put in the work and the hope that we could emerge stronger on the other side. But time would tell if we could truly rebuild what had been broken. It was a long road ahead, but at least we were both willing to walk it together. The weeks that followed felt like a delicate balancing act. Melissa and I committed to our journey in couples therapy, and while it was challenging, I could see us slowly starting to navigate through the wreckage of our relationship. Our therapist facilitated difficult conversations, pushing us to explore the emotions we had buried beneath anger and hurt. In those sessions, I learned to express my feelings without shouting or blaming. I shared my pain, how betrayed I felt, and the fear that had taken root in my heart. Melissa, in turn, began open up about her insecurities and why she had sought comfort outside our marriage. It was painful to hear, but it was also a necessary step toward understanding each other. One evening after a particularly intense session, as we sat in the car outside our apartment, I turned to Melissa. "Do you think we're really making progress?" I asked, my voice tinged with uncertainty. "I do," she replied softly, her eyes glistening. "It's hard, but I finally feel like we're being honest with each other. I don't want to lose this chance to make things right." Her determination filled me with hope. I had spent so much time in darkness, but with each passing day, the light began to seep through. We started to create new traditions, small moments that helped us reconnect, cooking together, going on weekend hikes, and even laughing at old memories. Slowly, I felt like we were reclaiming the parts of our relationship that had been overshadowed by betrayal. One evening, as we sat across from each other at the dining table, I noticed how beautiful she looked under the warm glow of the light. I had spent so long focused on the hurt, but in that moment I saw the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. "I can't believe how far we've come," I said, a smile creeping across my face. "I know," she exclaimed, a glimmer of happiness in her eyes. "It feels good to connect again, doesn't it?" It was in that moment I realized something profound. I was learning to forgive. It wasn't easy. It was a process that required patience and understanding. But each day, I chose to let go of the anger that had threatened to consume me. I was beginning to see Melissa as more than just the woman who had betrayed me. She was a partner trying to rebuild what was broken. As the weeks turned into months, we faced setbacks, of course. There were moments of doubt and fears that crept back in. Sometimes I would catch myself feeling insecure or wondering if I truly trusted her. But every time I felt that way, we would talk it out, and the honesty of those conversations brought us closer together. One evening, after a long day, we sat down for dinner. The table was set with our favorite meal, and I could feel a sense of normalcy returning. "I love you, Mark," she said, looking me straight in the eyes. "I'm so grateful for your patience and for giving us a chance." "I love you too, Melissa," I replied, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I know it's been hard, but I believe we can get through this together." It was the first time I truly felt hopeful for our future. And as we clinked our glasses together in a toast, I knew we were still a work in progress, but we were both committed to the journey ahead. In therapy, we had discussed setting boundaries for ourselves and each other. Melissa had cut all ties with Jake, and while there would always be a part of me that felt a pang of hurt at the thought of him, I was learning to let go. Looking back, I could see how the experience had reshaped me. I was learning to stand up for myself, to communicate openly, and to embrace vulnerability. I was also rediscovering the love I had for Melissa, a love that had been tested but not extinguished. In the weeks that followed, we continued to grow together, each day reinforcing the bond that had once felt so fragile. The road to recovery wasn't linear, but it was ours. a testament to our commitment to each other and our desire to rebuild. I learned that love isn't always perfect. It's messy and complicated, filled with moments of joy and anguish. But if both partners are willing to do the work, even the deepest wounds can heal. I took comfort in knowing we were on this path together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. As I reflected on the experience, I realized I had learned one of life's most important lessons. The strength of love is found not only in the moments of happiness, but also in the ways we confront and overcome our darkest challenges. Together, we were forging a new beginning, and for that, I would always be grateful.